Hello and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalists Hangout. I am Veronica Dani-Boy. It is 22 days to the presidential election in Nigeria. It is not yet late to start getting set for the polls. Today on the program, Saraki denies that PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar traveled to United States as his aide. Obi Ezekwesili steps down from presidential race, but INEC disagrees as appeal court declares Donald Duke SDP presidential candidate. And later on the show, sacked TEPT Fund Executive Secretary Dr. Bafa accuses Minister of Education of demanding 200 million naira bribe. I will be hanging out with Babachide Kolade Otitoju and Charles Ideho. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the program.
Thank you so much.
Well, Journalist Hangout starts now. In our brand of politics, finding faults in others appears to have become the favorite blood sport in political campaign strategy. We are still amazed by how a supposed insignificant issue like traveling to the United States has become a pawn in political campaign. The dust raised by the eventual trip of presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, to the U.S. after 12 years is yet to settle. According to his opponents, especially those from the APC, Atiku was only granted an entry visa to America because he posed as an aide to the Senate President Bukola Saraki. But Senator Saraki, who doubles as the Director General of the Atiku campaign organization, has denied the claims, describing it as ridiculous. He's not just said it's ridiculous, he said it's also a propaganda. And refuting these claims, does it lay to rest all the controversies that has, surrounded Atiku's trip, Jide?
No, people who do not like Atiku will not be excited about the fact that he traveled in the first place. So whatever they can do to ensure that he does not gain a tremendous political traction from that trip, they will do. And that's why they've set out to try and take the wind off the sail of that trip. Because there was a man who was taunted for years that he was too corrupt that he could not travel to America. And they found a way to get the Americans to give him a visa to visit their country so close to the election. It's like a political masterstroke, because whether we like it or not, nobody can taunt him after that trip that he cannot go to America. They can taunt him about other matters, but you can no longer say that Atiku cannot go to America because he's gone to America and he's back. So while there, so that Atiku supporters do not stand on rooftops and be jubilating over that feat, in inverted commas, then they decided to invent all kinds of analogies, all kinds of stories around the trip. In fact, there were people who said, why did he choose the time that America was going through a shutdown? What they failed to realize is that a shutdown does not mean that America closes down totally. It just means that government workers don't get paid during the period. It's not as if while there's a shutdown, people are not working, or that ISIS can just move into America and take over America. So that is not, people, they do not even understand what the shutdown means and the extent of what is actually called a shutdown. So they also said, oh, he went as an aide of the Senate President. In any case, it wasn't the Senate President's trip. It was Atiku's trip. It wasn't a delegation from the Senate that the Senate President, Atiku was the head of the delegation. So if anybody was tagging along it was the Senate President tagging along and not Atiku, as these guys are saying. So they said, oh, he exploited the diplomatic immunity that the Senate president had. But when Senate delegations go to the U.S. and other places, that immunity does not extend to members of their delegation. It does not. If you are a member of that delegation and you had heroin or cocaine in your bag, wanted to bring it into their country, of course you'll be arrested. I mean, the Americans are not that lenient with felons who come into their country. So all kinds of stories, funny stories that sometimes you tell yourself, how did they even invent this? Somebody sat down and crafted a press statement, supposedly written by the American embassy. Oh, we could not arrest him because he came with the Senate president of Nigeria, this and that. I looked at this as a journalist who has treated press statements over the years. I said, these guys must be very inventive, very creative, for them to sit down
and imagine that
at the height of their powers for mischief, sit down and then craft a press statement.
And it looked very plausible, very plausible.
So the political season is a very funny season in Nigeria.
Season of propaganda.
All kinds of things happen.
They shoot.
All kinds of things. You know, I'm sure that we've not even had the last. Some of them have been saying that even while he was there, he was actually meeting with Lebanese.
Not Americans.
Not Americans.
And in fact, there was a report, Charles, that according to a U.S. journalist that said that the former vice president actually paid a sum of $540,000 to get his way into the U.S. And the article was headlined with a question: what does $1.1 million lobbying contract buy in Trump's Washington?
I also heard that story. And I also read it just yesterday, was laughing too. I also laughed. I said, why do we have to travel ignominious roads in order to get any cheap political points scored? It's not necessary for me, honestly. The story before was that, oh, he wouldn't dare step onto the soil of America. And as long as it lasted, people tended to believe that truly, the man couldn't go. But all of a sudden, we heard that the man flew and he was in Washington. Some friends were even saying that he didn't go to US, he went to Washington. You know,
so there's a difference between US and Washington.
He didn't go to US. At least he wasn't. He went to, let him try Oklahoma, let him try Chicago. You know?
And that his movement was,
was also restricted. And he was going through, you know, all these two were seeing, he was going through the back streets, you know. I said, but why do we need
if they didn't want him to come into their country, he will not come into their country.
He will come into their country. There's no way.
They could have arrested him.
Visa,
they could have arrested him immediately.
Even at the point of entry.
You know, the thing is, for some of our people who are not exposed, you see a level of idiocy in some of the arguments.
Yeah, that's
now, when you come into a country like the US, where their processes are really top-notch, exactly. You submit your passport to immigration. They will run checks.
All of them.
If you claim to be what you are not, because America is not such a dumb country. Somebody was our vice president for 8 years.
Yes,
he cannot come and lie that he's an aide to a Senate president.
It's not possible.
He cannot. They have their dossier on him beyond what he can imagine. So once you come and you now turn yourself to what Yoruba will call Adimeru.
Oh, okay, that's why they call him okay, I heard that. I saw that
yes,
word.
You know, definitely when they run their checks and they discover that you are not
qualified.
what you told them you are, of course they are going to arrest you. In any case, if they were desperate to arrest him, at the time when he entered UK, they could have sent Interpol after him.
But look, even way before he went, you already had information. The document was already submitted. The thing ought to have shown up.
He got the visa. He got the visa in December. So he just chose the right time, his own time to go.
So, but for me, having said that, I think, like all of us have been advocating for a proper issues-based campaign.
Yes.
For instance.
I'm going to come to that, but I just want us to quickly address this issue because Saraki is saying that, you know, they used this trip to settle talks among for the Atiku's inability to travel. So why was it so secretive if you were trying to settle those calls or trying to, you know, make people, silent people, really?
I think they wanted to spring a surprise.
Yes,
it's also, I mean, it's a surprise. I mean, if they had said, oh, it was going, it wouldn't have made any meaning when he left.
It's not striking.
Yes, of course. It
don't strike you. The element of surprise has to be there.
Do you know what they call a sledgehammer? You use a sledgehammer to kill an ant. If they had announced just like the triumphant entry of the strategy. It was announced beforehand. If you had announced it beforehand, it wouldn't have been a very strategic point, a political point.
It won't make the kind of impact because you already expected it.
Do you understand?
You know?
So for the fact that it was unexpected, and meanwhile, I'm sure as Jerry called it, was a master stroke. No word went out that such plan was being hatched. Okay, it was not in the media.
Even the day he came back, nobody knew that was the day he came back.
So what and that is a strategy?
It's also a strategy because he went and he came and he was not arrested, he was not molested. And don't also forget that the stories
private person.
It's a private person.
It's not the president.
It's not the president.
It's not a government official. So for now, it's a private person.
Yes.
Don't also forget what he went through when he was returning from
Dubai. Yes.
The thorough checks and all that they subjected him to.
But yes, the port of entry
could have made him to say, okay, anytime I'm traveling,
I just travel quietly.
I will just make it a quiet affair.
Yes. So not a media affair anymore.
Because they knew he was going to touch down the country at that time. That was why they were really
they were focused on him and they focused on him.
So many security men thoroughly check him the way they did. So he could have told himself, look, let me just shock these people.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
The next moment, they will just see that I'm in America. But they said I cannot go.
Yes.
You see, if you announce like 4 or 5 days before then that you'll be traveling, within a short time, that hoopla will fizzle out. But if you do it, you just shock people.
And that's exactly a political.
It's just like politicians. Politicians like to employ shock. For example, or the element of surprise. You see at rallies sometimes, you will not know that one big shot will come and decamp at a rally. You just go there.
Just for normal
and suddenly
business.
they will introduce that person that is joining their party.
With his members.
You know, to add to the excitement, the surprise will add to the excitement and all that. So he must have chosen to just,
go quietly and then
go quietly and then come back.
It's also possible that if he had announced it beforehand, the security agencies also would have they could also have stopped him.
Or even try.
Trump charges could also be raised to also stop him from going.
So is that why he didn't meet up perhaps with journalists in the U.S.? Because if you don't want to let us know when you are going or returning, at least meet with.
Well, he had his plan when he was going to over there. He had his itinerary. Maybe they decided to just remove that from itinerary. As I said, the main focus was he couldn't go.
That was the thing.
That was the main focus. He couldn't go.
That was the agenda.
The issue of meeting businessmen was just an appendage. I felt, for me, I thought, just let me go.
Let me just make a point that I can enter that country. That is the overriding desire.
Yes.
So if he now, in the process, he met some Congress members and a few people. That's just like a sweetener, just like a bonus.
Exactly.
The main thing that I wanted to achieve was to go to that country and let Nigerians, as they prepare for the election, know that he that is chasing the #1 position has the capacity to go to the U.S. when he wants. Because it has been a big issue.
Yeah, we're saying that how can we have a president if he wins
that cannot go to the U.S.
All right, like you were trying to say earlier, Charles, having an issues-based campaign.
Yes, issue-based campaign, honestly. Thankfully, we are beginning to have a campaign that is devoid of violence and all that, which is, of course, I think is evolving, which we must applaud. But as we seek to build that culture of where we want to do away with violence and all that, we need to also look at this. So, for instance, Atiku, when Atiku came out, it was well celebrated when he came out with the Atiku plan.
Yes.
Right? I personally said, okay, for the very first time, we're going to be looking at it bullet point by bullet point to say exactly what it tends to do sectorially. Let's look at this sector, agriculture, and it will dominate the public discourse for a long time. Then we now had the APC also coming up with the next level. All of a sudden, we're no longer hearing that it's about somebody is not traveling, somebody's aide and so on. That's why I said, let's go back to what it should be. Let's begin to look at these issues and how they want to regenerate Nigeria.
All right, we'll come to that. We have Dare on the line calling from Kaduna. Welcome to the show. Go ahead with your contribution. Dari? Dari, are you there?
Okay,
all right, it seems Dari is not there. Now,
so, that's
okay.
it. Mm.
All right, I come to you now, Jide. Still looking at the issues-based campaign, because I remember speaking with a guest recently, and he said that why some of these politicians do not talk about issues is because they do not really have anything to offer.
Oh, there are no issues to talk about.
It's true. When you engage some of the politicians, you see clearly that they have nothing to offer. We have all kinds of problems. You want to ask, for example, we have a big problem with the problem of out-of-school children. More than 13 million out-of-school children in Nigeria. You ask a politician to tell you specifically how he intends to address that problem. You may even discover that he does not know that that problem exists, or that he does not know that the problem is that big. He does not have the numbers. He does not know that we have as many as 13, you know. But the issue-based politician will have looked at health, security, education, infrastructure, and he will have a plan. Power supply, for example, because it remains a big problem. Because for a few of us who enjoy power supply, we tend to delude ourselves that that problem has been solved. But we've had about 3 system failures within a space of 1.5 weeks. That should tell you that the grid remains very weak. And if the grid remains weak, there's no way you can transmit as much as you like. You can generate 1 million megawatts.
And to be lost.
You cannot generate what you cannot transmit what you generate, which is the problem that we have. 5,222 megawatts was the highest we could transmit last year. And it didn't last more than 24 hours.
And we celebrated it too.
It didn't last more than 24 hours. Now, how do we move from that level to the next level? A politician who is clear-headed, who is focused, and he knows how to solve the problems, will tell you that, look, this is what I want to do about the national grid. National grid is old, obsolete. This is how I want to freshen things up. This is how I want to address the problem of the discourse. This is what I was reading, that we have meter deficiency of more than 5 million.
So how do we intend to
how do you solve the problem?
Yes.
Because people must be provided with meters so that you can actually appropriately bill them for energy that they use. Consume. How does the politician want to address that? All the problems, the major problems that we have, no one politician can solve all problems. But at least you must have a plan.
Get to a point. Yes.
You don't get into office without a plan. The politician who gets into office without a plan, his performance or non-performance will be there for everyone to see. So, but when you engage them, as we always have an opportunity to do, you see that a lot of them are empty. A lot of them have nothing to offer. They just want, they know that, look, they've got thugs with which they can harass people. They've got marksmen with their Mark 4 and the rest of them, that they can chase people away on election day and they will win an election. Or even money to bribe INEC officials and judges later on. So you and I do not matter. They do not even want to tell us what they've got to offer. And even when they begin to talk, you see that for that particular issue that you want him to address, he has no plan. He's just speaking English, because people sometimes use English to find their way around. You know, it's an excellent language. You find their way around. You speak English. At the end of the day, you are mesmerized by the quality of language, and forget about the fact that there's really no substance. It's all gas, no substance. This is what we see. They really engage them thoroughly. You see that a lot of them have not got the plan, or that the plan that they have is just a rehash of somebody else's plan. How does he get to implement? What is his plan to implement? He does not know. He does not know. This is the problem. And that's why a lot of them stay away.
Yes, for many.
You ask for debate, they run away.
They run away because they have nothing
You
to
want
offer.
to engage them. I know a politician here in Lagos. Once he sees a microphone, you are bringing a microphone close to him. He puts his hands in his pocket. He wants to give you money.
Wow.
That's what he does. He doesn't want to talk. He thinks that, okay, once he gives the journalist that money, they will leave him alone. You know, he puts that
Not
money.
to expose him.
All right, let's quickly take Darius' call now from Kaduna. Welcome to the show. Go ahead with your contribution, Dari.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to concur with your panelists over there in the studio.
Thank you.
I think they are absolutely right. I don't know why Atiku traveling to U.S. or not to be the issue. Why we have so many things, so many issues to be dealt with on ground. And just like the rightly say, they are trying to run away from it. Whether Atiku goes to U.S. or not, for now is a private citizen. So we should base their campaign on issues and not Atiku. There are a whole lot of problems that needed to be solved here. Please, let's leave Atiku alone and face issues and how they will ameliorate the problem that is bedeviling Nigeria. I just hope that our politicians will be off and doing and have ideology as to solve this problem.
Right.
God bless Nigeria. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dari. Thank you for your contribution. Well, I come to you now, Charles.
Okay.
Is it because we've been practicing democracy for some time now, yet we're still having this challenge of, oh, no issues-based campaigns. We're not, looking at issues. How do we move from here? Is it the electorate that has to, demand this from our leaders?
Well, even the electorate you're talking about now, they are also not happy matters because they are highly polarized, highly divided. Just go on social media, you see how people are daggers drawn over particular candidates. Even the electorate, they are even the major problem we have because nobody is demanding money from them. I just said, nobody is demanding from them. Let us know what you intend to do for us. For instance, somebody is saying, was it, I think one of these 4 candidates that went for, 3, that went for debate, they were saying was going to create 80 million jobs within 2 years. My hairless head began to rise. 80 million, and that thing is, you are working something.
You will have known that one is just a liar.
But the thing is that what they intend to, every time they just want
how does he get to do it? 80
million. Even Brazil, that president, I can't remember, what is Lula da Silva, who moved about 30 million Brazilians from below the poverty line to 30 million. It was process by process, and they all look at all, and there were documents there, and the people were put in places where they had to run with their vision. But it's not just what they do, is that once they just able to be applauding them. And they don't also forget that we also have this issue of ethnicity. Okay, because the man is Omowani, as they say in Yoruba land, whether he's
wrong or not,
whether he's wrong or not,
he must not be criticized.
He must be there. Okay, now, even look at, so that says these are the things that they are taking from us, that robustness that we're supposed to even bring to the table for us to hear from them, and then we cannot move with the vision. As we speak now, we're talking about it's not about to change even in the next 10 years because because there's no foundation like I see now that is so we're going to have a departure from what we already have that we have always had. During the First Republic, I wasn't born then. The Second Republic, I witnessed a little. We had issues. Awolowo would come and then tell you free education. I benefited from free education of Benderson in those days. You knew that UPN was going to tell you all the 5 states were free education based. Or you know of NPN and so on. What do you have today? Because all the manifestos, they all look alike. What they tell you, they want to do railway, want to do all these ones. That's exactly why we are still where we are. As I said, I personally can't see any foundation being laid for us to have a clear departure from what we have
quickly,
as we speak.
Before we go, Jide, what should be the right foundation? How do we move from here?
No, our political culture is evolving. What matters to me most is for us to have a culture of free, fair, and credible elections. And we can achieve that by letting INEC be truly independent. Not simply independent because it's part of his name. INEC has to be independent.
And seen to be independent.
I want to see a Nigeria where every time we vote, our votes will count. Because it is one way by which you can actually have a succession of good governments. If people know that if they do not work for the people, they will be voted out of office, they will be displaced out of office. They will sit up and work for you and I. Right. But a situation in which whether a candidate is popular or not, they can rig him into office, he can win an election in spite of the voters. That is not good for, we can't make any progress with that. Go and look at countries, even in Africa, where they have a solid democratic culture, where at every point they can change their leaders when they want. Yeah. Those are the countries making progress. They are making progress. So that is what I want to see. When we get to that level, other things about our democracy will change. Like this culture of people not even asking their leaders the right questions. We'll get to that because we know that for the leader, we should be able to challenge the leader. Yes. What have you done for me? Okay, this thing that you have done that appears, your method that appears not to be working, what do you want to do differently?
Tinker with it.
You know, during your re-election, because I should be able to ask the incumbent administration that, how do you intend to do this? I still love you, but how do you intend to do this differently so that we can get the right result? So that will happen, but let's even have credible elections first.
Okay. Right now, still to come, Obi Ezekwesili steps down from presidential race, but INEC disagrees as appeal court declares Donald Duke SDP candidate. Stay with us. Well, you're still watching the Thursday edition of Journalists Hangout. In politics, devising new ways to win is what gives campaigns a comparative advantage against opponents. Recent events in the camp of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, ACPN, may in one way or the other change the game in the run-up to the February presidential election. ACPN presidential candidate Obi Ezekwesili has announced her withdrawal from the race, citing the need to form a coalition that will help defeat the main political parties, the APC and the PDP, in the polls as a reason. Hardly had the dust raised by that decision died down when her party took a detour and announced a decision to back the APC candidate in the polls. The electoral body INEC also rejected Ezekwesili's withdrawal. In another development, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has declared Donald Duke as the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. Now, Jide, what really is going on with the ACPN? Ezekwesili is saying she's no longer moving on as a presidential candidate, and the party is here supporting Buhari. And this is someone, she says she is deciding to form a coalition, you know, so that this party is the worst power from these parties. Perhaps was there? It's quite controversial, so to speak. What do you make of this situation?
Sometimes you ask yourself why some of these politicians or latter-day politicians are in the race. Is it simply to get more popular, or to use the platform to negotiate something bigger? Because what usually happens is a few days to election, you hear that this one is stepping down from this, and they often step down for a fee. They negotiate. Yes, you see, like primaries of parties, some candidates will say, okay, I'm stepping down, I will tell my supporters to vote for candidate A. Is because he's been paid to do that. So you see these politicians, a lot of them, they have different reasons for being in this contest. That's right. Because for some of them, it's simply to gain popularity, so that it goes into their CV that, oh, I contested the 2019 election. Many of them cannot, in the end, get even up to 5,000 votes across the country. Where the Buharis of this world will be getting millions of votes. They can't get up to 5,000 across the country.
But do you think there was a negotiation for the person of Obi Ezekwesili?
No. The thing is, I said they enter the race. I don't for Obi Ezekwesili, I cannot speak for her. But you know from the beginning that Ezekwesili cannot win the presidency. Even when she went to somewhere in Abuja to campaign, they were singing "Say Baba, Say Baba" to her.
It was very embarrassing.
A very scanty crowd that received her. They went there to embarrass her by singing "Say Baba, Say Baba," you know, which is a way of saying, look, you are not popular enough. For me, where I expected a lot of these guys, the Duro Toyes of this world, to start is actually the Senate. Try to get, because we have problems with lawmaking. We need the right people in the Senate. So why don't you try to get into the Senate? The ideas that you have, the bright ideas that you have, once you get into that place, you can be a star. You can really work for the people. Because, look, for some of the politicians in the US, they've been congressmen for as many as 40 years, even close to 50 years or more. They enjoy serving the people at that level. But you see a political neophyte, he wants to be president. But in a kind of a political milieu, there's no way you can be president. You can't. Even if Ezekwesili was saying that, that she wants to help build a coalition. Yes. You want to build the coalition so close to the election.
About 20
it didn't occur to you that, look, the time to build the coalition was months ago. Yes. So that it can gain traction, it can gain sufficient followership. You want to do it so close to the election. So I really don't see how now she's withdrawn from the race, and we are seeing members of her party say, we are going for Buhari, or this and that. They did it the same day. They made a decision. It's a matter of a few people in a party having different intentions. It's like that party, as small as it is, was just made up of people pulling in different directions. So she had her own agenda. Other members had their own agenda. So they couldn't even wait for her to leave before saying, look, we are going to work for Mr. President. You know? So this is the thing. People, I really don't know what they want to achieve. But for me, even if they came together, they cannot even defeat the party that is likely to come second. This is a fact that is verifiable. In a matter of time, we'll be able to verify that. It will take a while, and I've said maybe after 3 cycles of elections, the young people, a lot of who are apolitical, will become much more significant in terms of who wins what elective post. Because for now, yes, I like the energy that they brought into the race, the Mohalus of this world. But the 2 big parties will continue to run the show for some time. And they've shown that they can't even come together. Look at when they had this the UPP thing.
Oh, okay, CUPP. Yes.
They couldn't even agree amongst themselves. Look, I moderated the celebration debate, and the 2 young candidates were fighting amongst themselves. At a point, I almost lost control of the debate. I said, now, you can see why it will be difficult for young people to unseat the old generation. Yes, right. Because to even agree amongst themselves, even to step down, you are not going to win the election. It's as clear as daylight that you cannot win the election. But to even step down for one another, you cannot. Yeah. So that is a problem, really.
All right,
honestly.
Charles, she has said that this is a patriotic sacrifice. And for someone like her who was in government at some point, one would have expected more, that she should have known that this is too close to the elections to say you are stepping down because it's a patriotic sacrifice.
Do you want to hear from me the real reason why Ezekwesili, why she did that? She saw a many teke or passing. That's the handwriting on the wall.
Writing on the wall.
What was the writing? That the party already had made up its mind to withdraw her ticket from her, in order not to be seen as having been defeated.
It was too late to withdraw, sir.
But they were probably planning it. Okay, look at, they were also working at cross purposes. She is the presidential candidate. the chairman of the party, Ganiu Galadima, is the vice president candidate. Why Ganiu is, working on the ground also with APC? So how do you think they were able to build a very strong platform?
And if she was stepping down, they said she did not consult them.
Yeah, because you know why? The reason, because if they had done that, it would have been easier for them to pull the rug off her feet. All right, which was why she didn't want that to happen.
Just hold the thought. Okay. We have a caller on the line. Okpara, I believe. You're welcome to the show. Go ahead with your contribution. Are you there? All right, go ahead, Charles.
So you also look at, even right now, as Jenny just mentioned it, she withdrew yesterday. Today they are packing all the platform and then using it to support another party. So does it mean that they just took the decision to support Buhari and APC today? So they have been underground move. Okay, even look at her, they're also accusing her that she also didn't carry them along.
Yes.
They said number one that she had two accounts. One of them, you had $5,000 in one account. The other one, $35 million that she raised from donors. Yes. That she kept those money. And they asked her about a month ago, and she said she was going to make the money available. Up to now, they have not. So how can you build a party like that? How can you build a party? So it just tells you that
it was a dysfunctional party.
It was a totally ab initio. I think what we should rather be advocating as we speak is that let's see how we can even build maybe 3 strong parties. All this issue of everybody, Jide will now be
what of foreign parties now, about 90 parties.
Do you know how many? Okay, look at. Okay, she's already there now. As INEC has said, that it's too late. Look, the ISCPN is already on the ballot.
Yes.
So when you now look at, they can't change it. Look at the length, almost like a tape rule that the tailors use. So how do you identify some of those things? So I think we as Nigeria, thankfully we have a very robust platform through which we can tell them, politicians, look, let us build this country. This is the only country we have. And the only way we can do it is to have a very strong democratic experience where the infrastructure will work. And then so all of us can benefit. Rather than all the, even the very light, even what we're still trying to build now, look at the division. 91 parties. How do you explain that?
How do you explain that? But then, still talking about Ezekwesili, I talked about her person and what she has championed over the years. With all of this coming from the party, put a smear to her image. So
that's why when you go into politics, you have to be careful.
There's something coming.
You have to be careful because politics can really get your hands soiled. This is what we are seeing with this woman. Bright woman, full of ideas. Somebody that I think will still be very useful to our country. In any capacity you give her, she's so intellectually sound that even during the Obasanjo regime, she was the minister that all ministers feared. Because when Obi Ezekwesili begins to argue, you can be sure that she will defeat you in the argument and Obasanjo will back her. So what they were always doing was ministers would go and lobby her. If they want anything from Baba or wanted anything from Baba, they will first say, Obi, we want to push this thing today. Please, please don't get in the way. If you start arguing now, it's your side that Baba will go. So they used to just plead with her because Obi had the intelligence and the intellectual quotient to win any argument, especially when it comes to the economy or what have you. So they will lobby her, and she may not just get involved, and at the end of the day, those people you won't believe the person who told me this if I mention the person. So that should tell. And the person who told me was also a first-class product in Obasanjo's administration.
But defend to Obi.
Yes, because when she begins to argue, she's so strong.
So strong, and then she has a fast. She only has a fast.
And she always had a fast. She has the knowledge. She had everything. She could aggressively pursue a cause, and then you see fire in her eyes, and you want to agree with her. So that was it. So they feared her in that administration. So, but to say, okay, I want to be president, no.
Just no.
You will be useful to Nigeria in other areas, but not at this level as president of the country. Because, look, if you are talking about a third force or a fourth force, it will still be among those dominant parties, maybe SDP and ADC and the rest of them.
Yes.
You know, or even Accord, not these lower rung parties. No, it can't happen within them. It can't. So now this has happened. I think it's a lesson for her. It's an exemplary lesson for her that in politics, even the people that you deal with, you hold meetings with every day, you cannot wholeheartedly trust them. You don't know what they will do the next minute. You know, people like Ashiwaju who has experience in politics, they'll just be laughing at her and I see this small girl. You just be laughing at her.
Did we tell you?
Because they are already familiar with the sport, with the game. They know that this is how it runs. One politician told me, says, see, we always like to hold meetings late in the night. Our meeting will extend till the morning. That if we do a meeting and it ends at 12 noon, they could schedule another meeting for 3 a.m. And the decision reached at 3 a.m.
Will be trashed.
Yeah, you will not know it. Maybe you are probably snoring in your house. These people, they've had another meeting at 3. So in politics, you have to be mentally alert at all times.
Yes. And also, there's something I quickly want to also add to it, that obviously also have to be very careful, particularly when you're in politics. Even the so-called aides working with you may also not be on the same page. Like the one they're accusing now, that there's a particular lady who's supposed to be one of our aides. I'm sure you read that one. That also gave a very privileged information to the party people that the woman wasn't serious, that she was already scheming for ministerial position.
That could actually be employed to even smear her.
But of course, but they mentioned names.
Because I don't think,
see
the fact that they mentioned it, nobody has evidence of that.
Yeah, I do understand that.
You know, in this milieu, people can actually drop names, lie against you.
Gentlemen, let's, because of time, you see, we've been talking about the third force or the fourth force, and someone mentioned SDP. And we know that the appeal court has just affirmed Donald Duke as the presidential candidate of the SDP. Jide, do you think that this ruling will be challenged?
Well, I'm certain that they will challenge it. They will go right up to Supreme Court. It's their nature. Politicians, a lot of decisions that they should naturally resolve among themselves. It's the courts now. The courts are becoming even more powerful than INEC in determining who gets what elective post. You can see what's happening all over the place. So they may eventually get to Supreme Court. But the decision of the appeal court is clear. This man in October won the election.
Yes, fair and square.
Nobody challenged the result at that time. But to now come and say the regulation of the party precludes people from the same zone, I mean, precludes the idea of the chairman and the presidential candidate
must not come from the same zone.
And the appeal court is saying, if that is allowed to stand, that then Donald Duke's rights would have been taken away. And it also talked about, the court also talked about the fact that Professor Jerry Garner had earlier got into an undertaking that he will back whoever emerges.
Exactly.
So Donald Duke has emerged, then live up to your promise of backing whoever has emerged. So this is the thing. It's good for parties. Parties believe in zoning, but these are meant to help them to so that the right people emerge. But where the rights of an individual is threatened, the courts are there to restore those rights.
Exactly. Quickly, Charles, we need to move forward.
No, for me, I think even though it's, I don't know what SDP, what Yan are going to spin, because the elections are already upon us. I think Duke's that ticket will sell SDP better than Jerry Garner. Don't also forget that even virtually all the state chairmen they've already also queued up behind the Duke to say they will either swim or sink with him. So that alone, if you say okay, let what's his name, Jerry Garner continue, then it will adversely affect the fortunes of the party. So I think I applaud them for that. Let them just start building on this.
Okay, quickly now. In our complicated democracy, hardly is any decision taken without being given a political coloration. Some intrigues that resulted in the sack of Abdullahi Bafa as the Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, and his subsequent replacement by Suleiman Bogoro are emerging. Bafa has blamed his removal on his refusal to offer an alleged bribe of 200 million naira to a minister. Speaking on the development in Kanu, he accused the minister of demanding 10% of the 20 billion naira to be disbursed to tertiary institutions across the country by the agency. How does one describe this? How does one rather describe this gentleman, Jide, quickly? Although the presidency has not given reasons for Bafa's sack, but these are weighty allegations against the education minister.
Yeah, they are, and I'm personally disturbed. I've known Adamu for many years, from his days in Nigeria to his days in Citizen. He's a trained accountant, but he chose to become a journalist. So if Adamu had been that kind of person who put so much accent on money, then he wouldn't have chosen the path of journalism. He could have remained an accountant, you know. So, and there had been instances in the past when he chose to maintain his integrity, his history of probity and all that, you know. So I know that people change, but it's still extremely difficult for me to believe that this is the case, that Bafa was saying the truth. But when you imagine that Bafa was his special assistant, when he became minister, he brought Bafa, you know, as his special assistant, as his personal staff, the closest staff to him. And when it was time for him to replace chief executives of the agencies under the ministry, he went for third front, the most significant, the most lucrative, most viable of all of them, and gave to his essay. No Nigerian law is against that. But morally, people will ask, why must it be your essay that will become the head of third fund, you know? But as I said, it's not as if any law is against it. Now, when your own essay, someone who had worked with you for so long, when he comes into the open and talks in this manner, then it's extremely dangerous for Adamu himself, because one, many people will think that he's saying the truth because he knows so much. Yeah. As an essay, you will know so much about your boss, you know? So people will think, oh, he's saying the truth. But at the same time, Third Fund is notorious for graft. Third Fund is education's version of the NNPC. So much stealing over the years have gone on at Third Fund. It is almost impossible for anybody to pass through Third Fund without being accused of one act of stealing or the other. That is the time. People have been asking, this is an agency that should fund research. This is an agency that should help improve infrastructure in our schools, in our tertiary institutions. But a lot of stealing goes on there. And the president has to take a look at Third Fund and even investigate what has gone on there since he became president. Because what Bafa is saying calls for investigation. They need to check whether Bafa is saying the truth or not, or whether he's bitter because he had been removed and they brought, by the way, even this Bogoro that they brought looks like a strategic decision because that's Dogara's cousin. So perhaps...
He was there before too.
Yes, you know, they've gone back to perhaps picking someone from Dogara's clan can help them achieve their aim of smashing Dogara as a politician. Off his feet. I don't know what's in their mind, but this is my suspicion. But I think that it has to be investigated. You know, what Bafa said has to be investigated. The EFCC should go and bring him, invite him, and let him mention the contractors.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
This should not be swept under the carpet.
Yes.
Because and he even said that he is ready to accept death punishment. Does this is also?
We don't.
He said he is ready,
even to die.
I know. just as what Yoruba will call asodun. In our laws, we don't kill people for corruption.
No, he's saying
maximum you will get 10 years.
Perhaps he's trying to show how his person.
Yeah, he said rather than give in to such a graft, he would rather die.
That rather
than giving in to this 10% that forget.
Live story.
20 billion.
Anyway,
live story,
Charles, because of time, I'd like you to quickly touch the president restating Suleiman Bogoro because, like you mentioned, he was sacked in 2016 based on a 200 billion naira allegation. And, does this mean that those allegations have been, swept under the carpet? And
well, this is part of the challenges we are having, that we are not able to enrich our democratic process or experience. If you had somebody with such allegation, I expect by now have everything dispensed with so that we can keep in our file, perhaps in abeyance for future references. But since that happened now, I don't know. Okay, look at there's one already on ground. We'll have another one also coming. So which one should we treat first? But I think I'm not going to depart from what you just said earlier. I think those cases should be thoroughly investigated.
Yes.
Even the man who is being brought back now too. I mean, is he above board? The other question is that is he the only man who can also pretend over the affairs of that parastatal? So I think we need to look at how we can build on credible blocks to start building our democratic process. If not, I'm telling you, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, you see. This is not a prophecy. I'm only looking at what is on ground and exactly that how government has not been able to deal with some of these issues. You find this 200 to over 200 billion something already there, and we're not doing anything about it.
That's a huge fund meant for our university.
To rescue it. Abroad, some of these inventions, they are university based. What do we have? No research. You can't even talk about it. We're talking about all this revitalization of the university. We're still fighting. Meanwhile, money is somewhere, and people are just pay free and then putting those in their personal private pocket. I think that for now, if the president want to really win my heart, let him set up a committee, whatever nomenclature. Let them thoroughly investigate this. Whoever is found culpable should be punished so it will serve as a deterrent for the future.
But do you see that happening, an investigation, stemming from Bogoro returning? We don't know whether he was investigated.
Well, even if they said Bogoro stole 200 million, as long as we have not seen the result of the investigation at that time, or we have not been convicted, nobody can go to town with the accusation. It's just an allegation. So allegations crop up from time to time, and some of them are sometimes found to be false. So just like this one, it's difficult to say, oh, the minister is guilty, because it has to be proven. Exactly. Someone must go ahead and prove this before we can believe, And at the same time, you cannot say that it's just a mere that Bafa was lying until we subject what he said to scrutiny. Those who listened to the program where he said it on VOA, they said he was even saying that one of the contractors told him that, look, they are not happy with you.
They're not happy with you. No, the minister was not happy with him.
The minister was
not happy with him. Yes, he said that.
So
he was also be accused of inaccessibility.
Yes,
they can access him. Insubordination. And they also press conference without even taking permission. All these things. Let them investigate and see how.
Let's see what happens.
All right, gentlemen. I'm afraid this is the much we can take on the program. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Well, that's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. And you can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Dani. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.